Next video is a really simple but effective way to help with right knee pain. So watch the video, and then after the video I'm going to talk about what's happening during this exercise. Lie on your left side with your feet on the wall and your hips and knees bent at a 90-degree angle. Keep your back rounded. Place a small towel roll underneath your ankles and left abdominals. Press your left hip down into the table so your right hip moves towards the wall. You should feel your left abs engage as you lift up away from the towel roll. Shift your right hip forward until you feel a slight stretch or pull in your left outside hip. Turn your right knee out, keeping your left knee on the mat. Use the wall as a fulcrum or pivot point for leg rotation. Turn your right knee as high as you can without moving your right hip back. You should feel your right outside hip engage. Hold this position while you take 4 to 5 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Relax and repeat 4 more times. So if you don't want to know about what's happening during that exercise, you can stop the video now and you can just go back through the exercise if you want to. I encourage you to take it slowly. Make sure that you're breathing under control, so you're not straining to breathe in or breathe out, but you're also exhaling fully and completely. So you do want to feel all the air drain out of you. And my encouragement is to make the movement effortless. So you want to feel like that shift forward, that turning of the right knee up and out is effortless. The more you strain at these and try and flex to do it, you're not going to get quite as much benefit, and you might start to compensate in areas where we don't necessarily want those muscles to fire. So if you keep it simple and almost think of these movements as being effortless as you flow through the shifts and the movements and turning out, but also let the air flow in and out of you, you'll feel the muscles working that we want working, and you'll feel the position a little bit better. So why this is an anti-right knee pain exercise is really because of what's happening in the pelvis. So deal with a lot of volleyball players and athletes in general tend to have a lot of right knee pain. And so why that is the right pelvis tends to be further back than the left. And so if we're oriented to the right with our pelvis, so if the right is back behind the left, that orients our pelvis to the right, our femurs have to reorient back to make us go straight. So your right femur tends towards a more internally rotated position. So the right pelvis is back and in a bit of internal rotation, and the right femur sort of corrects to go back to make us go straight, and it internally rotates as well. So that's often why you see right knees turning in. So we sometimes see it in the left, but you more often see that the right knee collapses in before the left does. And that's again due to pelvic position. So, traditional understanding of how to deal with jumper's knee or right knee pain is to sort of, okay, strengthen your glute max. Great, yeah, external rotation. But we're not taking into account the whole system, from your hip right down to your foot. So something else that we see on the right side is that the foot is more supinated, or the arch is a little bit higher, and we tend to see that right foot turned out a little bit more. So the external rotation that we're looking for through that right hip tends to come through the tibia down through the foot. And so you see a knee that's going straight ahead, but you see a foot that's turned out to the side. And typically you see that on right feet. You can see it on left, but again, typically it's going to happen more often on the right. And it happens on the right first, I would say. So you see the whole system from the hip to the foot trying to make up for this pelvis that's in a rotated position to the right. And so everything down the chain is trying to figure out how to get us back towards the left, really. Okay, so that's why that right knee collapses inward. You will find knee pain happens more often on the right. You'll find that the right lateral quad tends to be stronger, and we might find that the right internal rotators, so glute med, glute min, and sometimes TFL or tensor fasciae lata, and that right IT band all tend to be a little bit more facilitated, a little bit stronger. So what we want with this exercise is, first things first, is reorienting that pelvis to allow us to externally rotate the pelvis. So that's that right hip going forward first. Or in the exercise, it says to shift your right knee forward until you feel the left outer hip. So if my right pelvis is going forward, my left has to be going back. And that's really what we want, and that's what's key here. So you can do clamshells all you want, lying on your left side with your right glute max. But if your pelvis is oriented to the right and you start doing clamshells, you're really only training the glutes further in the pattern which they're already in. So what we're trying to do with this exercise is bring that right side forward. So we're trying to put that right hip into external rotation, but we do it from the pelvis first. So technically it's the acetabulum that goes forward and externally rotates. So that's that first shift forward. Then the second external rotation moment that we're going for is the femur turning out or externally rotating in the socket. So now we have that glute max working as an extensor and an external rotator, which are its two prime functions. And so we get it working on the pelvis first, then on the femur second. Now, the last part of the system is making sure that the feet stay flat on the wall. So it says in the steps to use your foot as a pivot point to turn the knee up and out. So if the right foot is normally a little more supinated, so the arch is a little higher, or you tend to be a little bit more on the outside of the foot, we don't want to, when we turn the knee up and out, pivot to the outside of our foot, because again, that's not correcting the system. What it's doing is really just feeding into the whole system doing the same thing. So everything is externally rotating. And that's not really how we want that ankle or foot joint, knee joint, and hip joint to work together. So you feel both feet flat on the wall. You're going to feel that right hip shift forward, external rotation of the right pelvis. Then you're going to pivot that right knee up and out. That's external rotation of the femur. And as the foot stays flat, that's actually a little bit more internal rotation. So if you go back in the video and watch it, you can tell that I have very terrible external rotation. So it's something that I work on. I don't lift my knee very high. As I do the exercise, I feel that ability to not only get my right knee and hip further forward, so not only do I get better external rotation through my pelvis, I also can turn my knee up slightly higher every time, which means I'm getting more external rotation through my hip, through my femur. And the other thing that I really struggle with is to keep my foot flat on the wall. I want to roll to the outside of my right foot. So that's why I limit how far I turn my right knee up. Because if I turn it up too far and I roll to the outside of my foot, then I'm not getting that tibia down through the ankle, through the foot, which is taking into account the entire system. So this is why this exercise can be a good anti-right knee pain, anti-right jumper's knee exercise. So I encourage you to go through it slowly again, right? Try and feel that right pelvis shift forward first, and hopefully you get a little bit of right glute max already. Now there are other deeper external rotators that are working there as well, but typically we just feel that glute max because it's such a big muscle. So get that pelvis rotation first. Feel the foot flat on the wall. So again, don't roll to the outside of your foot. Rather, feel like your right foot stays flat on the wall. Feel like your left foot stays flat on the wall. Shift that right side forward, and then just turn that right knee up only as far as you can get. So again, don't force it up and start to use your back to do so. The less you sort of force these movements, so if you make them subtle, it'll often work better. If you really force the movement, you're probably going to end up using your back a little bit more. You might feel some SI pain. You might feel pinch somewhere, and that's really not what we should be feeling in this exercise. So go back and do it again, and then let me know what you think. If you have any other questions about stuff like this, please, by all means, reach out. rostrengthandconditioning.com is my website, and my email is rostrength@gmail.com. So love to hear from you. I do online sessions as well as in-person sessions, so if you're interested in further training, reach out and I'd love to chat with you. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you.